Welcome to session number 7 of OAuth with Access Manager. In this session, we are going to discuss about the another grant which is called the Resource Owner Credential Grant. This kind of grant is used by the client application who has a trust relationship with the resource owner. That means you need to provide your username and password to the client application, and in many cases the client application saves the username and password. If they don't want to ask the user multiple times, they will save it in the client application. That says that the user basically trusts the application, that he is okay to feed the user and password, and he is okay with the application to store those username and password. Um, it, it is considered not to be very secure or very safe because the user has to provide his password and trust the client application is not going to misuse it. To learn more about this resource owner flow and the more theory about it, you can basically go to the OAuth concept. On the documentation, you can go to the OAuth concept, click on the authorization grant and click on the resource owner credential grant, and you can see the flow and something about it. Okay, now we are going to explore the resource owner or password. It is also called password grant or RO grant or resource owner grant. So whatever name you give, this is not secure. So now we are going to use the let's OAuth to explore the RO password grant. To do that, first we need to go to the client application and make sure that the client application is capable of honoring this particular grant. So we'll go to the client application, edit, and here we can see grants required, resource owner credential. Select that, modify client, okay. Update the identity server so that identity server will know about this change. Okay. And then we are going to access the tool. Let's OAuth, and you need to access this particular link, password code flow. So click on the password code flow and it will bring this particular form. In this form, go ahead and do a view page source. So you can see it is a form where we are taking this particular information. Grant type, it is already populated, so no need to change the grant type. You need to give the client ID, client secret, resource server, username and the password, and also you need to provide the scope which you want, and it is going to make a request on the token endpoint. And using this particular grant type, which is password, access manager will identify that this is a request for the resource owner credential grant. Okay, so I will go here and put these values. So with this form, that once you have filled this information, then you can just use the first letter and it will bring the options to you. So like my client secret, will just type 4 and I have the option and I can select it. So for that, you need to access this particular form in the main browser at least once. If you have a habit of like me to use incognito mode for everything, you need to use this in main browser at least once so that this value will be in the cache. So after that, whenever you use incognito mode, you can populate from there. Uh, Not related anything to the session, it's just I thought to tell. Okay, identity provider, username. Let's use the user auth implicit user, which we created in previous session, and password. scope. Scope, you can provide a single scope or multiple scope. When you're providing a single scope, you need to basically um, so let's do one thing. Let's create a new user for this. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I have just created a new user, uh, which is OAuth RO user. If you want to see here, so this user I have created, and if you see it, it does not have any what do you say, the NIDS OAuth grant attribute right now. I did some spell mistake, so I need to use the same thing. OAuth RO user. Okay, not the auth. Okay, so OAU auth RO user. Okay, I will give the profile two values. So if you give more than one scope, you need to give the values with plus sign. Let's go and press the button send, and you can basically see there is an access token as well as the refresh token is provided. You have an access token and a refresh token. It also says that ACR value is what is going to use, and profile email. I'm not sure why did it use the secure name password form, that we will see now. So one thing you would have noticed that in this case, irrespective of authorization code flow or the implicit code flow, in this case there is no user consent has been taken, right? That means you trust client application so much as a user that you have given all the permission to the uh, to the to the client application, and that's why there is no consent has been taken. So if we go here and check, we get the NIDS OAuth grant. If we go and check here, it will automatically set the scope here. But in the previous case, there was a page coming which it was asking specifically for user to provide the consent. So there is no consent is taken in the resource owner flow. And as the refresh token has been given, you can see there is a entry for the refresh token. Now, uh, if you remember in the previous session, we have seen that if we don't pass the value called ACR underscore value, it was all the time executing the what you say, the default contract. But if you see this example, I'll just go to the back button and see what we have done. We have not provided any uh, contract name, right? We have not provided any ACR underscore values. By that way, it should have executed the default contract, which is in our case is local default name password form, but it has executed secure name password form. This is what you see in the when you make the request. You can see a new refresh token and the access token, and ACR is this secure name password form. Okay, so this value is basically coming from here. If you remember, if you go to the global setting of OAuth, you can see something called contracts for resource owner credential authentication. Why we have to provide a new option here? The reason is, although the Let's OAuth is using the feature of the browser, but it is basically is used by the client application, which is not going to use the browser. Okay, and in this case the username, password, everything is stored here. uh, if you are not using browser and you are not coming to the IDP is not going to execute the default contract. That's the reason we have to specifically assign what contract we want it to be executed. So as the secure name password is selected, it has executed it. In the background, we did not see any login form there. We did not type the username. Whatever information we have given is everything was here. Okay. So now we can go and check the user attribute once again. Oh, the size is grown. You can see there is another refresh token. Let's try one more time. Send a new refresh token. One more time, send a new refresh token. See what happens there. Sizes increase. If you go and check. So multiple times you are creating a refresh token and that many refresh token is coming here. Okay, so this is why I said that it can grow in future. So you need to make sure when you are creating the NIDS OAuth grant attribute, it should be enough to hold these values because it can grow in size. So that's why we suggest to use the stream attribute, which can grow as much it is to hold the extra values which are coming. So now the thing is, there are so many attributes, there are so many refresh token and access tokens are given. Is there any way we can revoke the tokens? We can just revoke the one token which is provided to a client application. Uh, yes, we have a way, and that we are going to check in the next sessions. Thank you.